Got some steering issues on my 73 Ghia. Had similar issues on my Super, and replaced the whole front suspension parts to get rid of the shimmies, and it worked out pretty good, pretty straightforward. But doing ball joints first for me, so what I'm going to do is I took this side off, and I'm going to take the ball joints over to my buddy's garage and have him press out the old ones and put in the new ones. What I thought I'd do is start the other side and put it on video, show some folks what you're up against. First, jack it up, put on jack stands, take off the tire, and the first thing we're going to tackle is removing the sway bar. I removed it on the other side. The sway bar is this bar right here, and you got to take off these clamps. Now you can try to bend the clamp part over to save the old clamp. I decided I'm just going to cut mine off and replace it because I'm going to replace the bushings as well. These are the clamps for the sway bar. You can see there's a tab here that you would pull down, and then this theoretically should slide this way. But it's a real pain in the butt, so I'm just going to cut right through here, spread them apart, and they should come right off. Got the sway bar off. Here's the clamp I was talking about. You can see it that piece just zips on there and it clamps over. And it's a pain in the butt to try to use the old one, and they're not that expensive. Next is to take off the calipers. Take off the calipers. There's two bolts back here. You just take them off. I'm going to put a cement block over here to have the caliper rest on because you don't want to open your brake system. Calipers off. Now I'm going to take off the hub. To do that, you just stick a screwdriver down in here and kind of hit it with a hammer and go around and try to bring it loose to get to the nut that holds the disc and the under hub onto the spindle. I got the hub off and basically started with a screwdriver, then used a claw on a hammer and pried it off. Now you got to take this nut off, and what you have is this little hex screw that tightens it on. One word of caution, this is the passenger side, so righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, but on the other side it's the opposite. It's lefty-tighty, righty-loosey. So just be aware of that. And when you do put them back on, you don't torque them very tight. They're only about 8 or 10 foot-pounds. And maybe this video will last long enough. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, I got that nut off. Now it's time to pull the hub off. Now, it'll pull right off, but one thing I want to tell you about, inside here is your outer bearing. Well, just between my finger and the bearing is this washer. It's kind of slotted, goes in this slot right here. And so you got to be careful you don't yank it out, but right now the hub pulls right off. Next, now you got the hub off, this is kind of covered with grease, so I kind of wiped it off with a paper towel, and I'm going to repack my bearings anyway. I kind of do that anytime I have them apart. Now you got to take out these 3 bolts that take off the back plate. Okay, I got the back plate off. Now you got to separate the tie rod end and the upper ball joint and the lower ball joint. You can see one of the reasons why I'm replacing. You can see how the rubber's all kind of boogered up, and I think previous owner probably had a little fun with the pickle fork, which is what I'm going to use now because I don't care what I do to the boots, and show you how that's done. First you got to do is take off these nuts down here, this one here and this one up here, and then on the tie rod end you also got to take this nut off. Now this is the pickle fork I was talking about. Basically, once you get the nut off, you just kind of wedge it in there, hit it a few times with a hammer, and finally those will pop out. You can do the same thing on the tie rod end, or what you can use is actually a tie rod puller. And I happen to buy both of these because I've had 3 Volkswagens and tend to use it more than just once. But I know you can rent them at AutoZone. Now I finally got them loose. I used the pickle fork in all 3. You can see there that things are moving. That bottom one was really on tight. The top one wasn't on tight at all. So now it's a matter of manhandling the 2 trailing arms to spread them apart to pull the spindle out. But just like the instructions for Christmas toys for the kids, it's the afterthought that I can't get them apart. And the reason is I got to take off the lower shock bolt. And once I do that, things will drop down. Used a little floor jack to take some of the pressure off so you can just push that shock off the bolt. The spindle off, once the shock was off, man, it just dropped right down. Now the next thing I got to do is this part right here is your camber spacer. See the hex here? That's how they adjust your camber. This is a picture that the one from the other side. You can see how the hole is off centered, and as they turn it, that adjusts the camber or the top of the spindle to move the wheel out or in, depending on what you need to do for alignment. It's stuck on there just like the ball joints are, and what I do is I use this to separate it from the ball joint. So I'll do that. Get it on there. Next thing is you have to turn this nut here to drive the bolt up against there. Probably run into is the whole thing turns because the ball joint's kind of flexible. See, it's kind of like everything turns. So what I did, I don't know if it's right or not, is I wedge this crowbar in there, kind of get it up against that part there, and then torque on that nut. And by the way, when that nut breaks loose, it goes flying. It's a real loud pop, kind of like your tie rods, because it's kind of a metal on metal press fitting. Now that one came off pretty easy. It's the other side. Man, I had to torque and it finally broke loose. But you can see, I think this might have been the root of my problem. I don't think it was on the whole way, and shit seems to be falling apart here. So I think it's definitely due new ball joints. It's not loose or anything. You can see that the rubber's really dicked up. So anyway, alright, now what I'm going to do is take off the trailing arms, and the way you do that is under here there's what they call a grub screw. It's a hex fitting with a lock nut on the outside, 19mm, and basically you take those off and the whole trailing arm just comes right off. Let me loosen this up and I'll show you how. They pull right out. Okay, I loosen that nut. Now you got to loosen the grub screw, which is a what is that, about 8mm Allen, and just loosen it. Two hands. And I got two hands on it, and basically it just unscrews like any other. Now this nut is just a locking nut, so it torques down, but you can see there's a point on there, and it goes into your torsion bar in the assembly. Now what happens is you can pull this right out, and you can see that the grub screw goes in that hole right there. Kind of a greasy mess, and what I'm going to do is get some plastic and wrap this up. So you don't need to mark it because that grub screw can only go in one hole. But then I'm going to do the top one same way. It comes out the same way. Then you can see right here there's a seal. I'm going to replace that seal. Behind that, I think it's either a bushing or... Okay, I got that off. My next what I'm going to do is bought a whole new tie rods. I found it was only a couple dollars more to get tie rods. They're chrome, and I don't really give a crap about the chrome. But it had tie rod ends on it and everything else. And so what I'm going to do is get on the other side, and maybe not today. I think right now it's beer time. But pull those tie rods off, get the new ones the exact same length, get me close for my toe in, and there's just two more tie rods on the inside. Basically right there by your master cylinder. Get some light on it, but there's right on your side of your steering, there's two tie rod ends. So just you pop those off and then put the new ones in. Pretty straightforward. What I'm going to do now is put this video together, and I might do a part 2 on how to put it back together, but yeah, it's probably not worth it. It's pretty straightforward. It's just the way you took it apart. Later.